Coach, in the opening statement, and we'll take questions after that.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Excited to be back home, getting ready for tomorrow night's game against a terrific Louisiana-Lafayette team. Another team similar to Dayton that knows what they're doing. They've been together. They have a system in place. They have some experienced players. Long is a big go-to guy inside. Pretty tough cover. We learned a lot about ourselves in Dayton that, we have a long ways to go. And when people talk about Rome wasn't built in a day, our basketball team is not going to be built in a game or two. This season is a journey. We watched some video, and we had quite a few teaching points in the video, and our players came out, and they got better yesterday in practice. So we have a certain style of play that everybody's fully aware of what the goals are on offense and defense. We didn't achieve our goals, especially after about 10 or 11 minutes in the game. We didn't sustain what we built in the first 10 minutes of the game in Dayton. But again, it's a learning process for our team. Our guys are very coachable. We'll, watch some more video today, practice a little bit, and get ready to play in front of what I'm hoping for is another highly energized home crowd, just like we had opening night.
Thanks, Coach. Let's go ahead and start on the left, Michael.
Did that performance, the lopsided loss, did that surprise you at all, based on what you've seen from the team heading into it?
Well, Dayton's a good team. I think what surprised us was our lack of ball movement. There were situations where Dayton had 2 and 3 guys on the ball, and the ball used to be called Stickum. Used to be called Stickum? You remember, was it the old Los Angeles Raiders cornerback? He used to wear that Stickum. We had a lot of Stickum. So hopefully we won't have as much tomorrow night.
You talked about the defensive film session, stuff like that. What was that like? I understand you kind of started off with an A and they just tailed off. Can you kind of go into that with the players?
Yeah, so we have a defensive rating system, and there are probably about 12 different categories. And in the first 10 or 11 minutes at Dayton, if we were in school, we basically had an A- on defense. That's why we were up 18-16, even though our offense was malfunctioning all over the place. But because of our lack of offense and turnovers and poor decisions and the job that I did in getting our players ready to play that game and not making as many adjustments as we should have made, we went downhill defensively the rest of that half. So we basically had a D+ the rest of the half, and that affected, the score. But our first 2 games, the first 10 to 12 minutes of the game defensively have been pretty good for us. Even against Kennesaw State, they had 5 points, I think, at the 9-minute mark, but they scored 27 points the rest of the half. So for us, for a young team, we're trying to coach them on how to be mentally and physically tougher for a longer period of time. And I just think that shows some of our inexperience.
What have you said to the team during film session or done during practice to make sure that this loss doesn't turn into 2?
I think the main thing is, guys, we haven't been together for 20 or 25 games. We haven't been together for 2 years. So part of it is just some growing pains. The main thing is they practiced really hard yesterday. They practiced hard and they tried to come out and improve on areas where we made some mistakes. So again, I evaluate our season on a 5-game interval as I share it with our players. I'm going to evaluate our starting lineup, our rotations, the way I call timeouts or don't call timeouts. Everything's under evaluation. And, and hopefully, 5 games and 10 games from now and going in the conference play, we'll know a lot more about our team. But right now, we just still have a lot of unanswered questions. But the way we answer some of our questions is trying not to make the same mistakes multiple times, whether it's on one possession or multiple possessions.
Other questions? Go back over to Alex.
You mentioned it several times, but obviously when you have your key player, Jimmy, only score, 3 points, I think, in the game and just struggle from really front to beginning, how do you kind of get him going? Do you try to change the game plan a little bit to maybe adjust more to him, at least early this season, or what?
I think the main thing is there are windows. I think football uses that term, right, with their quarterback. There are windows that are open where they can throw the ball to a receiver. We haven't figured out how to deliver the ball into those windows. But that's what happens when you have, a freshman point guard and a sophomore point guard that's being coached by me for the first time. And we've only played worked together for 2 games. But again, in practice yesterday, I kind of had to put on my high tops and basically practice for 25 or 30% of the practice with the team just to try to educate our young guards on how to get the ball in some of those windows. So they did a better job of it after the demonstration. Hopefully tomorrow, if we have some of those windows and Jimmy or any of our guys are open, we'll get the ball to them on time, on target.
Expand on that, what y'all did, what you did personally to kind of show them?
Well, just mainly one of the plays that I was really comfortable with that they actually like to run, I was just trying to show them kind of how to manipulate the defense and what to look for and how to have a panoramic view of the floor. And I think when I get out there sometime and do those things inside, they probably laugh a little bit because I'm not in the type of shape I was 20 years ago. But at the same time, they get the point of when a 50-year-old guy is out there kind of orchestrating the offense, and then they'll say, okay, coach, we understand. Because some things are telestration with our young team, but in our case, they need some time for me to physically demonstrate situations, and I think they'll appreciate that.
Go back over to Michael on the left.
Who do you see in this team as the guy who's standing up and, when you walk away, when you're done talking, and he's the guy who kind of steps into that conversation and be that leader?
I think Retton's trying to step into that conversation. We have a quiet team. That's something we've been working on since the summer. Just trying to get them to talk more. So Retton's been trying to step into that role a little bit more. I like to see Arthur Edwards step into it more. I like to see Jimmy step into it a little bit more. A lot of our guys, they'll talk loud when they're open for a pass, but we're trying to get them to be more of an encourager and challenge their teammate and encourage their teammates maybe coming out of a timeout on defense. We're trying to talk more in those situations.
Is that rare for a team like this, or have you been around many teams that are this quiet? Just
I don't think it's rare. I just think I think it happens across, college basketball in a lot of ways now. We're not an abnormal team in that situation, but for us to improve on the floor, we're going to have to have better communication and louder communication. And because, they're out there and I got to do a better job of, working the sidelines and helping them through some of those situations. It's a team deal, where we are right now, and there's no blame. First of all, it's too early in the season to even use that word. But I think from a coaching staff we got to do a lot more to try to help our young team get through some of those situations.
Got a couple more questions. Go for Sean.
Yeah, Coach, you've sort of talked extensively about your offensive philosophy and getting shots up early and being a fast-paced team. Do you have a particular philosophy that you preach on defense, or is that more to match up? I know you guys were sort of, at least later in the game, you were trapping hard, fighting over picks. Is that sort of typical for this team?
Yeah, we have a philosophy. That's why we have a defensive rating, so that we can grade our philosophy. We have a baseline system of how we convert on in transition. We have a baseline system of how we play half-court defense, how we play cross-pick, how we play back picks, how we play a pick-and-roll situation with a center involved or a four-man involved or a small guy involved, how we defend the post. But we also have game plan adjustments based on the strengths of our opponents. We also have game plan adjustments as it relates to an individual tendency of our opponents. And then all of that goes into our defensive system. So, yes, even though we love offense, we still have an accountability model on defense. And basically, our offense in our last game really affected our defense.
Any other questions for Coach? All right.
Okay,
You got it.
thanks.